Good morning. Going to give it another minute or so. We had a few more folks registered for the webinar this morning, so I'll start in just a minute. All right, good morning, everybody. In the interest of time, I think we're going to get started. Thanks, you all, for being here at our webinar this morning to introduce you to the Michigan Infrastructure Office's Technical Assistance Center and our open window for applying for technical assistance with grants. I'm Chris Brady. I'm the director of the Michigan Infrastructure Office's Technical Assistance Center. Today, we're going to briefly introduce what we call the MIO TAC, or just the TAC, and we'll spend some time explaining the technical assistance application window and how it works and how to apply. I'd like to suggest to you, if you have questions, if you put them in the chat, and then at the end of the webinar, we're going to go ahead and answer questions live and take them from the chat. So as much time as we have available, we will answer questions at the end. All right, so let's get into it here. This is our agenda for the webinar. We're going to briefly introduce what is the Technical Assistance Center, and then we're going to go over the opportunity to apply for technical assistance that opened today. And the technical assistance that we provide is targeted to specific grants. And we're going to introduce you to those grants that we're targeting for providing grant writing support for. And then we'll do some question and answer at the end. All right, the Michigan Infrastructure Office was created in 2022 through Public Act 166. Michigan Infrastructure Office created a technical assistance program. The Technical Assistance Center then was created to manage the technical assistance being provided to communities in support of efforts to access funding through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. In short, the TAC exists to help you secure maximum funding and successfully execute essential infrastructure projects by providing capacity building, technical assistance, project planning, and matching funds. We want to be a partner with you and understand your priorities so you can achieve your goals. We want to be able to provide a wide variety of support that's tailored to what you need. So we offer a range of services, which I'll explain later, and we continue to expand our services as we're going through time. So we also want to be able to ensure that state resources are applied for maximum benefit. So we work to, when selecting who we can help or what projects we can help, we work to identify and prioritize the most impactful opportunities that align with state priorities. And that includes our equity goals and serving geographically diverse areas. So we also provide a model for how the state can promote investment in infrastructure. And we want to showcase innovative ways for the state government to encourage sustainable infrastructure investment while building local capacity. So again, I'm Chris Brady. My background includes 30 years nonprofit experience working with local municipalities, providing program planning, grant writing, technical assistance, program management, and so forth for programs like Community Development Block Grant, USDA Rural Development, HUD, Home Investment Partnership, MISHDA, DHHS programs. I did that for 30 years, sort of like a technical assistant. And then I joined MIO on October 1st. And the mission is to stand up, my mission was to stand up the new Technical Assistance Center. So in December, we opened December of 23, we opened the first round for applications for technical assistance. We have or are in the process of providing technical assistance to about 52 communities for BIL or IRA funding so far. And more opportunities are coming. As the feds release new rounds, we keep opening new windows to request help for you to request help if your capacities are constrained, as we know they often are for things like figuring out which grants to go for and how to write grants. This is now our 5th window since December. So MIO has a strong team with decades of experience in infrastructure and federal programs working to maximize these federal funds coming to Michigan so we can upgrade and modernize our infrastructure to ensure Michigan remains an incredible place to live. Okay. Included on our team, working with the TAC, are several consultants who are providing the direct technical assistance to the communities. TAC has a master contract with McKinsey & Company. So this slide illustrates the depth and breadth of experience that McKinsey and its subcontracted providers possess. You'll notice that McKinsey & Company has subcontracted with 3 additional firms to provide all the types of technical assistance that we're offering. McKinsey itself has offices in Detroit, and they've been working in Michigan for 6 plus years now, and they've coordinated responses for states to identify and pursue over $500 billion in infrastructure funding. They've supported 15 regional coalitions to win over $154 million in funding. So Cambridge Systematics, they provide grant writing and BCA assistance. They've supported over 150 federal grant applications across multiple infrastructure programs, and they specialize in RAISE and CRISI funding, and they've won over $1.5 billion for their clients. Rollins Infra Consults leadership has over 100 years experience with Michigan Department of Transportation, and they've conducted asset management workshops with MDOT for several years. And finally, JETCO, also providing grant writing, is headquartered in Michigan. They've won over 500 contracts from 275 different agencies, totaling over $4 billion in funding. So that's our team. A lot of excellent professionals on our team, and I'd like to go over now the technical assistance window offerings in window 5. And here's a little reminder, window 5 is open until November 15th, midnight. So currently we're providing 4 types of TA. There's 4 types of TA, but still only 2 applications to choose from once you go into the system. We have a separate application for communities seeking grant identification help. The other application is to request grant writing and or match funds. So we'll go over what those 2 differences are soon. For applications that are selected for grant writing or match reservation, a readiness for grant application analysis will be completed. There'll be more on that in a little bit. It's important to note that all these services are all free. TAC is excited to offer these services at no cost to the recipient community. All costs will be paid directly by the Michigan Infrastructure Office. And because the state of Michigan has already gone through the procurement process, as I spoke with the master contract with McKinsey, we have the consultants under contract. So that makes it so that technical assistance can be deployed very easily and rapidly once a community is selected to receive it. This has been really advantageous as we have seen the feds drop large and often complicated NOFOs with little time to respond. So if you're applying, please be prepared to spring into action. Okay, so the opportunities. Number one, we provide grant identification. This is where the applicant community brings TAC projects that they're interested in funding, but they don't know how they would fund them. So we can help you find the appropriate grant. So we do this by providing tailored workshops and resources for grant education, identification, and prioritization. So we'll look at your project, we'll ask you for some details, we'll spend a few meetings with you getting sort of that hammered out, and then our consultants will go back and basically do a really big research project on your behalf, and then come back to you with a workshop presentation on what grants might be applicable to all or parts of your project. So that's grant identification. You can apply for that with its own application in the system. And then the other three are all applied for under one application. A readiness analysis. So you bring us a project and a target grant, and we perform an assessment of your project as to whether or not you're ready to create a competitive application based on your available data and project scope. So you put in all your information that you can into your application for technical assistance, and we read through it and figure out, do we need to talk to you and ask for a little bit more data? We can do that. We'll meet with you, and then we'll provide you with a readiness memo. So what is it that you identified you were going for? Does it look like you're ready and competitive for that funding source? And then if that's the case, we will provide you, if you want it and need it, grant writing support. So with that, you would be required to participate in the grant writing because you have all the data and information. And you would also be required to have a staff person assigned to the grant writing project so that we have a contact person that can respond when additional data is needed and be present alongside the grant writers on the team in order to see, to be sure that your handwriting is in all of the grant pieces that we put together. Services under that are the grant writing for the narrative. We can also do a benefit cost analysis if the particular funding source requires it. And we can also, or will also, manage the process for applying. And then finally, you may need or want to request match funding. A lot of the federal opportunities are coming with a local match requirement, and we can do reservations of local match. A portion of the match is preferred. There's been occasion where we've been able to provide all, but we'll talk about that soon. All right, who's eligible? This is who can apply for technical assistance in this window, and it's pretty varied. Local governments and their road commissions or their different departments, school districts, utility authorities, urban public transit agencies with support from their affiliated MPO, rural public transit authorities with support from MDOT, and federally recognized tribes are all eligible applicants for technical assistance. It is important to note any eligible non-governmental organization applying must demonstrate support of their local unit of government. So this is with the goal of promoting local coordination with relevant parties. We want to be sure everybody's on board and that you have local support. And then MPOs and RPAs, so municipal planning organizations or regional planning agencies, are responsible for prioritizing and selecting the projects from their member communities to submit to TAC. And so they would provide the community applicants with letters of support to submit with their applications for TA. So if you're going to fill out a request for technical assistance, you need to make sure that your MPO or RPA, whichever is appropriate to your community, supports it, and they've given you a letter of support that you can upload into your application for technical assistance. And then finally, eligible applicants have to demonstrate access rights and approvals of local site ownership when it is applicable to the project that you are proposing assistance for. So how do you find the right support offering for your need? These are just some scenarios to help you decide which type of TA you might want to apply for. Um, so for scenario one, communities in this position, please reach out directly to TAC. That's basically me. All the contact information will be provided at the end of the slideshow here. But we will do our best to point you in the right direction and explain future opportunities that we're working on. So the first position is that you have a preliminary idea about infrastructure improvements that you could make in your community. You don't have a project really formulated. You don't have, you haven't done any studies and nothing has really been done, but you do have an idea about some infrastructure improvements that you need, something that the community has raised concerns on, or just something that you want to approach on your list, but really it's not gelled into a project yet. Just contact me and I can help you take the next steps for that. So the second scenario is you've identified a specific infrastructure project and you're interested in finding federal funding, but you need guidance about which federal funding is correct and which ones to pursue. That would be applying for grant identification support. So that one that has its own application. And then the third scenario is you've identified an infrastructure project and a federal grant that you want to apply for. And you need help writing that grant or preparing a BCA or another technical document. And or you need some match funding to complete the local match requirement for the application. For that, you would apply for a grant writing support and match funding support. It's just important to note down there at the bottom that you will be notified when preliminarily selected for grant writing and or match funding. And then following that initial selection, it's not a final selection. A consultant is assigned to you that will conduct a readiness assessment to ensure the project is sufficiently scoped, competitive, and ready for grant writing and or match funding. And so if your project is determined not ready to apply for the grant currently identified, your community would be offered alternative technical assistance options. All right. You might be wondering, how will the application process work? So this is our fifth window in 2024, and it's our final window in 2024, but we will be opening another window in early 2025. The timing of these windows coincides with federal grant notices of opportunities, called NOFOs, that are released or that are soon to be released. And we announce a set of grants eligible for support in each window. For grant identification support, applicants do not need to align with a grant announced in the window, of course, but they should be able to specify a project in their application. So for grant application technical assistance and match funding support, applicants will need to identify the project and the federal funding opportunity they're seeking help applying to. We will be targeting support to grant opportunities that are currently open or opening soon. So please note, it is possible to request help for a grant not targeted by TAC, not on the list. You would do this by selecting the other category within the application. If you do request help in the other category for a grant that's not specified, you will need to demonstrate that the opportunity is either currently open or on track for award similar to those specified. That's just a timing thing for us and for being able to batch and assign technical assistance to as many communities as possible amongst the consultants that we have. So for each window, TAC will estimate the number of awards of assistance to be given out in each category. For window 5, this one, we anticipate awarding 6 grant identification services and 10 grant writing services or match reservations. These are estimates only. We will review the applications received and determine the amount of assistance needed. If it's possible to award more, we will. So in other words, if we receive several applications that only need a really light touch, we might be able to select more communities. Or we may be able to group communities to receive technical assistance together in some circumstances. Okay. Here is just a little more detail about the process of applying for grant identification support. So for grant identification support, we open the window, which we did. Let's see, eligible applicant seeking grant ID support submits the application during the window period. Again, it opened today and closes November 15th. MPOs and RPAs work with member localities and organizations to pick priority projects and provide letters of support. And eligible applicants fill out the application form. And then we will go through a review and choose whether or not to support an application. At the end, once the window closes, we will review them. Everyone gets scored. I'm going to explain how that works in a minute. And we choose applications to support based on our capacity and alignment with the provided support criteria. We will then provide an email introducing the TA consultant to the community. We create a scope. They then together, the TA consultant, considered a member of the TAC team, you all create a scope of work and confirm what services will be happening. And then services are provided. And then you get grant identification workshop at the end typically. And if a grant is identified that you want to apply for, you can choose to apply for grant writing support in future windows of the TAC. So it is not a natural progression that you get grant identification and then you're not automatically awarded grant writing support. You have to come back and apply for that in a future window. Okay. So here's more detail on the process for receiving grant writing and match funding assistance. It differs a bit from the ID process. So prior to opening the window again, we identify the BIL and IRA, excuse me, federal discretionary grants that we're targeting for technical assistance for the window. And again, please note the other grant category is available. So for grant writing and match funding support, we open the window, you apply seeking grant writing or match funding support and submit the application in the window. We review it and select a group of applicants to move on to what we call the pre-selection stage. In the pre-selection stage, TAC and the applicant, we meet, we do like an intro meeting. We submit, give you like additional data requests if we need them to get more information. And then we perform, based on the data that you're given, secondary review to determine your readiness to receive grant writing assistance. That's a readiness assessment that we talked about. If we determine you're not ready for the grant writing assistance because you just don't have the data needed or the project doesn't fit the criteria of the grant you're going for or whatever it might be, we provide you feedback and we explain that, and then we'll provide coaching on your project, including identifying ways to improve your application or what additional data you might need to get, or engineering or whatever it might be. We'll provide coaching and information to make that a more competitive application. And then you'll be encouraged to request grant writing assistance for a subsequent window. Additionally, if it's really not a good fit for the type of application, we may just offer you grant identification support and go more in depth in your project and go through sort of the research project of what is the appropriate grant. So if you're on the path with the appropriate grant, but you don't have enough information or data isn't strong enough or whatever, we'll suggest you get more and to be more competitive. If you're not on the right path with the grant, we may do grant identification support with you. So if we do determine that you're ready for grant writing, we create that scope of work and confirm the services to be provided. We provide you with the grant writing support. And then we also work with you to determine the potential funding gap. And this would be if there is a local match required. And then I'll explain how that works in a minute, but we'll work with you to figure out what is your funding gap for local. And then we move you up to making a match reservation. And then you submit your application for the federal grant with our match reservation documented for your application. And then if you win your federal grant, we disperse your match funding for successful applications. If you don't win your federal grant, the match reservation is canceled and the dollars go back to be available to be reserved for another application. All right. So here's some basic how-tos for completing an application in the system. We should note that communities will complete applications in the system for their own projects. So some exceptions might be made in cases where regional planning agencies or municipal planning organizations are the agreed upon applicants for the federal funds on behalf of the community's project. But that is very rare, almost never. They are not the applicants for the federal funds. The communities are the applicants for the federal funds. So the communities need to be the applicants for technical assistance. Now, that doesn't bar the MPAs or MPOs from helping a community fill out their technical assistance application. No problem at all. Also, does not stop them from being with us and right alongside us as we provide the technical assistance. If you're selected, they can be right in the room. They can be providing the data, can be doing a lion's share of the work with writing alongside our consultants. But it is still important that a member of the applicant community is also present and receiving the technical assistance. So that's a little bit on that. We're using WiseHive as our software, which is the online application portal. This system streamlines the application and the review process and makes it user-friendly. If a community has applied in a window before, your profile should already be in WiseHive. And then you'll just add an application for window 5 and fill that out for this project. Before filling out the application, please read the entire guidance document. You got links to the guidance document in the announcement email. There are links on our webpage. You can find that in a lot of places. And if for some reason you can't, you can email me and I'll send you the guidance document. But it does provide details on our services, our application process, and how to use the online application portal to complete an application. Okay, so yes, the portal requires you create a profile, and you can use that for multiple applications. And then your profile centralizes your application. So you will have a dashboard within the system. So if you apply for something else, when you open it up, go into the link, you'll see your previous application in there. It's important to know you can manage, edit, and add applications from your dashboard. Okay. You are able to save your application draft and return to it. So this is not one of those things where you open an application, you have to cut and paste everything in and don't get out of it before you apply. This is really user-friendly. You can save it, come back to it anytime. You just click back into the system. It's there on your dashboard. You go back in and put more information in that you gathered. Both the grant identification and the grant writing match funding applications are in one application page. When you're finished with the application, this is important, you will use the Mark Complete button, and then it will bring you to a new page with the final Submit button. Please be sure to hit the Submit button to actually submit the application. It is a little misleading to say Mark Complete and I would think it was complete, but it actually needs to then be submitted, and that's important. You will then see the green Complete when your submission is successful. So look for that. You can see it sort of down here. It'll show up on your dashboard. But even if you did submit it, it's important to know that you can edit your application up until the due date. So up until the closing of the window, even after you've submitted it, if you're like, oh my gosh, we just got this study in and it would be great if the project reviewers could see it, I want to upload it into my application, you can do that. You can go back in and edit your submitted application up until midnight on November 15th. Okay, this is the general timeline we're going to strive to follow. We estimate that the application submission process should only take about 3 hours. We're trying, excuse me, trying to keep it as simple as possible. Straightforward questions and the opportunity to upload anything additional that you want us to see that would give us more detail on your project, any maps or pictures or studies or budget, preliminary budgets could all be uploaded, and we'll take a look at all of it to look at, the breadth and scope of your project. So key dates, open the window that opened today. The webinar is today. And then I think it's next week, maybe the week after, whatever it is, November 6th, we're going to have office hours. So that'll just be me signing on to a webinar there to take your questions. Office hours are really helpful if you're in the middle of your application and you're like, what does this question mean? I'm not sure what you want me to say here. What are you looking for? Happy to answer that. Also happy to do that if you're trying to get it off your desk via email, if you want to ask questions via email. But office hours is also a great time to come and listen to what other people's questions are. I always loved that when I was applying for things to know what other people were stumbling over. It was either reaffirming to me that I wasn't the only one stumbling over something, or that I actually knew what I was doing. So that's what office hours is for. And if you do want to come to office hours, I would love it, because I don't like to sit there for an hour by myself. But if you have a question, it helps to send it to me ahead of time so that I can think about it. And if it's something I need to go get an answer to before, I want to bring you the best answer to office hours. So feel free to send me questions before office hours. November 15th is when we're closing our window at midnight. And then early December, excuse me, we'll be scoring then through early December, and then we'll choose our preliminary recipients and notify them. And again, just a reminder that we'll open another application window in spring of very early spring, probably early March of 2025. Okay, applications for technical assistance are scored by a committee of folks from MIO and various state agency experts like MDOT, EGLE, MIO, etc. This is an explanation of the scoring criteria that they use. So for grant identification, they look at project quality. So is there a clear and compelling vision for the project? Is it innovative and collaborative? Is the need for the project clear? That's important to demonstrate the need for the project and grant identification. Does it meet or align with our state priorities? And again, those priorities are within the application. You don't have to know them. You can look within the application. It asks you to note all of the state priorities that your project is in alignment with. So you'll see them right there. But some of our emphasized priorities are equity, of course, and geographic spread with our investments. And then project readiness. We'll assess the extent that the project has undergone pre-development work. But it's important to know, so for instance, pre-development could be that you've done community consultation and have input from your communities. It can be any spread of pre-development type work. You could have done a preliminary assessment or a report, or you could have a traffic safety data study already completed or something like that. All of that is what we'll look at as far as readiness. But you don't need to demonstrate full readiness to be competitive for the grant ID selection. We just use the information to understand what the services are that you need and just how ready are you. Okay, for grant writing and match funding support, again, project quality. Is it a clear and compelling vision for the project? So give us as much detail in the project description box as you can. Is it innovative and collaborative? If you have partners, list them out. Tell us who your collaborative partners are. Is the need for the project clear, or is it the need for the technical assistance clear? So if you have if you have consultants already for other parts, like doing the engineering or some of the technical stuff, you need to let us know that. But then you also need to then make sure that we understand that, okay, you have consultants on, but they won't help you with the grant writing. We need grant writing support. Our staff is, a staff of one or whatever it might be. Just be sure to express the need for the technical assistance clearly. And then, does the project align with the federal grant opportunity that you've said you want to apply for? We're going to look and make sure your project fits the requirements and the goals of the federal grant that you're targeting, and also whether it aligns with our state priorities. And again, whether you need this tax support should be well articulated within your application. And also look at project readiness, again, pre-development work, etc. So we will also award bonus points to applications that are serving rural and disadvantaged community benefit and provide geographic spread. So that, again, is to make sure that we are investing in equity areas and investing across the state geographically. Oh. So a special word for applicants that are requesting match funding. Grant writing and match funding requests do, again, share that one application, but you can just choose to apply for match only or grant writing only, or both. If you are requesting match, the considerations that we make are, is the match request reasonable? You have to think about the fact that we have a limited amount of match to reserve and that we're striving to disperse support geographically. So is your request reasonable? And if you want to talk any of that type of thing through with me beforehand, I'm happy to do that. Has the applicant identified other sources of local match that is required? We will not typically reserve 100% of the local match requirement. We expect that the locals come up with something to go towards the local match requirement. And so we need you to demonstrate that you have accessed and or exhausted all possible match sources. If you're selected for match funding support, you will be asked to complete a match gap worksheet. So like a budget. On it, you would detail the match that's required from your project and then all the sources of local match that you've identified. And whether or not they are actually committed or pending request or what status they're in. So then once we determine the match amount, we'll earmark your funding and you'll receive it if you win the grant. If you do not receive the grant you apply for, you will not receive the match funding and it will be returned to our funding pool. All right. Any questions on that? I'm happy to take later as well. Okay. We're going to move into an explanation of the grants that we're targeting. So the following slides are intended to give an overview of the federal grants we're targeting for Window 5. We are allowing applicants who have identified another federal funding opportunity to also apply for support under the other, again, the other category. Just make sure that it's due around the same time that the ones we're targeting are due. Okay. Okay, Window 5 grants. A lot of the timelines here are estimated because the NOFOs have not dropped, but they should be pretty close. So first is the PROTECT grant, Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, I apologize, this is so small, I can't even barely read it. For a transformative, efficient, and cost-saving transportation program. Yes, an acronym for everything. We expect the NOFOs coming out, but I actually got a notice today that the NOFO did come out just today, and it'll be due. I'll find that for you. Or if you're interested, ask me later, and then I'll look up the date. I just saw it this morning, though. Hit my email box. It's a $100,000 minimum request and no maximum request. It's a Department of Transportation, USDOT grant. These are the eligible applicants, and they are planning and construction grants to improve the resiliency of surface transportation resilience to natural hazards. Okay, then there's this Regional Infrastructure Accelerators Demonstration Program. Again, that's an estimated due date. It's $2 to $4 million award range. Also USDOT. These are the applicants. And this will fund infrastructure and financing strategies for the accelerated development of projects eligible for TIFIA credit program funding. If you don't know what TIFIA credit program funding is, you're probably not going to want this grant because it's a little bit of a it's a bit of a complicated program, but if you'd like more information on that, you can always email me and I can send you something. Then we are going to offer support again for RAISE grants, Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. Again, this new NOFO has not dropped yet, but we're expecting it. You can get up to $25 million for capital or planning grants from the USDOT. And those will be for surface transportation infrastructure projects, like the big ones, like roads, bridges, rail, ports, transit, EV, etc. Then we have the All Stations Accessibility Program. Again, NOFO is not dropped, but it is coming. And the maximum is a $25 million award from the USDOT. And it provides capital and planning grants for repairing stations or facilities and modifying a plan for pursuing public transportation accessibility projects. So next is ports. We're going to provide support for the Port Infrastructure Development Program. Again, estimated due date, the NOFO hasn't dropped. We are in an election year, folks, so things are a little bit slower right now. It is a $1 million minimum and a no maximum grant opportunity. And the grants improve the safety, efficiency, or reliability of the movement of goods into, out of, around, or within a port. Next, we're going to support the reduction of truck emissions at port facilities. So once again, estimated, and this provides funding to reduce truck idling and emissions at ports. Okay, a few more. Next slide. Next, we're going to provide support for the SWIFR for political subdivisions of states and territories. SWIFR is about materials management, infrastructure, and other initiatives to reduce contamination in the recycled materials stream. This is an actual, we have a due date of December 20th. So the awards are $500,000 to $5 million. It's an EPA grant, and eligible entities are political subdivisions of states and territories, basically municipalities. And then we're supporting the reduced lead in drinking water program through the EPA. This is also a NOFO that has dropped, and it is due December 30th. This is community water systems, like a town's drinking water system, municipalities, and others are eligible. And this will provide funding across 2 national priority areas, reducing lead in drinking water through lead service line replacement and reducing children's exposure to lead in drinking water. So really important grant opportunity. And then finally, the Clean School Bus Rebates Program, also open. Deadline is January 9th, 2025. $30,000 to $325,000. You can apply for money to get one clean school bus or up to several for $325,000. Or you can also include the charging station equipment, etc. That's through the EPA, and it's public school districts and tribes and others. So replacing existing school buses with clean and zero emission models, infrastructure, and other costs, including workforce training. All right. So that was a lot on a list of many grants, and I just talked about them really fast and didn't say a lot in depth. But on our website, we have what we call fact packs for all of the grants that we support. And you can go to them and you can read that general overview and also additional information as far as what are the feds kind of targeting or what are their priorities for those grants, what are the eligibility requirements, what's included in the application, et cetera. They are, though, general overviews of the grant applications, and current, and in some cases they're past NOFOs because again the new NOFOs haven't dropped yet. But in no way are we intending to substitute reading them for actually reading the entire notices of funding, federal funding opportunity themselves. So please, we can't stress enough, please, if you're interested in a grant, follow the links, which we provide links to all of the either old, because the new ones haven't come out, or the latest NOFOs. The links are there on the website to follow to the NOFOs to read them. We are providing the summaries, and I'm going to demonstrate a few of them next, just to illustrate the variety of grants that we're supporting and to give you an idea so you can head in the general direction of the appropriate grant. But again, reading the entire NOFO, if it is the grant you think is right for you, is imperative. Okay, so what are some examples? The first one is the Protect, which did just drop today. And so that's important to note. Since it just dropped today, our consultants have not, I guess, updated our fact pack yet, but they will be doing that very shortly. So Protect will be due January. I'll have to check that one. Okay, I just figured it out. Protect closes February 24th, 2025. So this again was when it would have, if it had dropped when it had the previous year, that would have been correct. But now, being as late as it is, the new NOFO is due February 24th, so a little more time. So Fact Pack gives you, again, an explanation of what they're trying to fund, what the federal goals and merits are for the funding. So for Protect, they have capital dollars and planning dollars, and they look for these merit criteria: program alignment, schedule and budget, public engagement, partnerships and collaboration, and innovation. So when you're writing the grant, you need to be sure you address all of those merit criteria. It's very important. I've sat through several sort of debriefs on applications that did not win, unfortunately, and they'll go through these merit criteria and they'll talk about, in some, I mean, at least the USDOT, what I've seen so far, why didn't this demonstrate innovation to us? You didn't say anything about innovation, or your innovation really wasn't innovative, or, they will tell you. So it's important to plan for how you're going to meet these merit criteria. And then also, let's see. Oh, those are for planning grants. I apologize. And this is competitive resilience improvements grants to do actual resilient activities. And these are the goals and merit criteria. So your design elements, your public engagement. So guessing that public engagement, if you're going for a Protect grant, should have already been happening, because you need to demonstrate good public engagement and be able to talk about it. It's hard to throw public engagement in at the last minute, is what I'm saying there. So just things to read, to be thinking about, is this the grant for us right now? Okay, the fact packs also tell you what is the match funding requirement, and whether or not the particular funding is applicable for direct pay, which is a tax rebate on certain types of clean energy production activities. So this is a 0 to 20 because I think it'll depend on what activity you're applying for, but then it describes the type of grants, what they're for, planning, and then the competitive resilience improvement grants, how many awards they anticipate awarding, and what are sort of the approximate average, and what have other projects in the past been funded. Then we'll talk about, again, the eligible entities in detail. And then also the fact pack tells you the key grant application components. So this is important because all of these forms, it's likely that you've filled out these types of forms before, but If you haven't, you can Google them and see what's on it, and determine if you have what you need for that to be compliant with that forms requirements, etc. And then what goes in the project narrative and should be present there to be an eligible and competitive application. And then we give you, I'm sorry for my clicker bouncing around in front of you, examples of recent winners from the last round. So here you can see the city of Kalamazoo, the Michigan Department of Transportation, and then SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, have all won Protect grants. And you can read the project descriptions. And if it's sort of like the project that you're applying for, you could call that recipient and ask them for any tips or tricks or peer-to-peer kind of sharing of what they did with their application, or what questions, if you have a question that you think that they might be able to help you with, feel free to call them up. Okay, next fact pack I wanted to demonstrate is that we're providing support for the Port Infrastructure Development Program. There's $500 million available nationwide in that program. It provides funding for the improvement of safety, efficiency, and reliability of the movement of goods in, out, and around ports. These are the goals and merits that you should be speaking to within your application. For each bullet, you're going to want to really give a good description of how you are achieving safety with your project, or efficiency, and improving port resilience. So it's not an or, it's an and. These are the things they're looking for. Here's the program details. You can see up in the right, there's a 20% match requirement. And if you are doing electric vehicle or infrastructure within the port development, that could potentially be applicable for a direct pay tax refund. If you need information about direct pay, you can also email me and I can help you with that. Excuse me. Listed are what you can use the money for, the activities or eligible grant uses. And then you can see the minimum and maximum awards. There is no minimum or maximum for this, so that's pretty open door. They want to distribute 25% of this funding for small projects at small ports. So if you're a community with a small port, that doesn't mean you're out of the running. And then let's see, 41 awards have been made and 2 awards previously in Michigan. Here are the eligible entities and the requirements. So you need, for your grant application, project description, statement of work, etc. And then there's additional requirements for larger projects. So you want to be sure that you know what those are. And also, we also tell you, of course, the narrative limit. So a lot of them do provide page limits, or typically not with these types of grants, character limits, like you can see in a lot of applications, but typically there are page limits. So that gives you a clue as far as if you've written one like this before, you can kind of look at, is this easily cut and paste, or do I have to pare down what I've submitted in the past for some other application? Examples of past winners in Michigan, Port of Monroe and Port of Detroit. So Monroe got 11 million and Detroit got 16. So excellent projects, both awarded. And if they are similar to what you're doing, you should probably phone a friend, call up here and see what happened and how they did it. Get their tips. Okay, next is the SWIFR grants, Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling grants. This is for political subdivisions of states and territories. There's $58 million available. Application deadline is December 20th. So you're going to worry that you wouldn't get technical assistance fast enough if you're considering applying for SWIFR. I can tell you that if you are applying for support with a SWIFR grant, because it does have a quick turnaround deadline, you want to read through and make sure that you're well on your way with all the data and things that it asks for. But if you want to apply, request technical assistance to actually write the grant, get your application in, submit it, and then send me an email. All right, So we're getting close to time. So I'm not going to go through any more of these examples, but I do want you to know that these are all, again, on the website, and you can read through all of them and then identify which grant is right for you. So that was a lot of technical information in a long stretch. Again, we've loaded all this information on the website for your reference. I think the most important piece of information I want to be sure I get across is that the Technical Assistance Center is here to help you. There is so much information coming at us daily about new opportunities. We are all drinking from the fire hose, right? Our mission is to help our Michigan communities figure out where and how to get the funds to modernize your infrastructure. So now it looks like we only have about 5 minutes left. So I want to thank you. This QR, whatever it is, this little QR code, whatever it's called, that, if you take a picture of it, will take you to our website. And that is my email address. So if you have questions as you're going through, please email me. I'm going to check the chat right now to see if there's anything I can answer quickly. Will you be sharing a link to establish a link to the Wise Hive portal? Yes, if you did not receive the announcement of the window opening, I can send you the link, or I can send you the original announcement, which has the link. If you have any problems with the link, you can also send me an email saying I'm having a problem with the link. So let's see if we can get you unmuted here. Oh, sorry. Manuela, looks like.
Yes.
Can you unmute yourself? Oh, okay, good. All right.
It's working great. So yeah, I just wanted to double check with the grant identification selection if we would be able to apply with a project that we're in the process of development. So it's a corridor plan, our main commercial corridor here in Mount Pleasant. And we are not yet at adoption, but we have completed community outreach, collected feedback on draft plans, and we're going to have basically a Word document coming in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can apply for. So this corridor redevelopment or development is going to include what type of infrastructure are you thinking about getting funded first, like roads or?
Yeah, it will be the full road reconstruction to convert it to a boulevard.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a perfect project to come in for grant identification for.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You bet. Okay, do we have anybody else with a question, a live question for me? You can unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, good morning, Chris. This is Dominique Edwards. I am with, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So we are exploring a Swiffer grant in Benton Harbor, and I was wondering if we can reach out to the office in regards to technical assistance opportunities with you with our grant team.
Sure. You said which grant are you exploring? Swiffer? Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you. And if you want to apply for assistance to like do grant writing and stuff, just put you can put an application in the window as well. But I'm happy to talk to you offline if you want more information. That's perfectly fine. Just send me an email.
Yes. Thank you.
You bet. Anybody else? Well, again, I thank you for your time. It's a long hour of me talking a lot and cramming in a lot of stuff. We have taped the webinar and it's going to be put up on our website as soon as we can do it. It does take a few days to get that process done. And then we'll post the webinar onto our website if you want to watch it again. Or if you just have quick questions, you can email me and let me know what they are, or you can come to those office hours. And again, links to all of it, the guidance, links to register for the office hours, links to get into the Wise Hive application. Everything is right on the website. So I strongly encourage you to go there. Otherwise, I thank you all for your time, and I wish you best of luck, and I'm excited to learn about your projects. Thank you for attending.